great Sales Hacker webinar for you today. We're going to give people another 60 seconds or so to get into the webinar. So in the meantime, why don't you use the question and answer tab on the GoToWebinar form and tell us your role and where you're dialing in from. Let's see what we got here. SDR, Tulsa, Oklahoma. AE from Atlanta, Canada. Sandra, what's your role? VP Sales, Jersey City. BDR, Orange County. AE from Scottsdale. Business Development Manager from DC. AE from Iowa. I'm guessing that's what IA is. I think it's Iowa. BDR from Chicago. VP from Philly. Sales Manager from Sweden. All right, BDR Canada. Director of Sales Toronto, Princeton, New Jersey here. Minnesota, DC, San Jose, London. Sales Manager from Oslo, Norway. Matt, you got quite the reach here. We got Scandinavia tuning in.
Boom. That gets a big boom.
Yeah. Hell yeah. We got Business Development, Brooklyn, Nashville, Massachusetts. All right. Wisconsin, Ohio, Berlin. Sweet. All right. We got everybody chiming in now. Ireland, Indiana, Austin. All right, cool. All over the place. Bolivia.
Wow.
Martin, what company are you from in Bolivia? Austria. All right. Quite the reach, Matt. So today we're joined by Matt Millen, CRO of Outreach. Matt, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here.
Of course.
Welcome everybody who took time to join us today.
Hell yeah. And we're talking about really important topic here. Kind of how to influence buyers that think they don't need you is the title of the webinar. We're going to be going into a lot of things that have to do with mindset within sales. So Matt, before we get started, why don't you give us a little context into how you got into sales personally? Because I know that it's an interesting story and you got a good journey there.
Yeah, thanks. I don't want to date myself, but I got out of college in 1986 and I got my first job as an assistant branch manager at a bank. And my buddy who got out of school at the same time got his first job in sales. And what was pretty cool is we were both getting a base salary of about $18,000. And the difference was, like, every month I got my 1/12 of $18,000. My buddy, every month he got his 1/12 of $18,000, and then he got paid again for everything he sold. And it only took a couple months of watching my buddy getting paid twice every month. He got his base salary and then he got paid for what he did. I got my base salary, didn't get anything else. I originated the largest loan in the bank. I collected the largest collection of the bank, and I didn't get any more money. And then my buddy is not just getting his commission check, but he's winning all these contests and prizes. So he's got a new TV, he's going on trips to Sanibel Island. And I'm like, I just want some of that. Like, he's no smarter than me, doesn't work any harder than me. I will figure this thing called sales out. I want to get paid twice. And that's what happened.
And so where did you go from there? What was like the beginning of the career? What was the path like?
Yeah, so back in the early days with 10% 2-point home loans, I was originating mortgages out in Boston, Massachusetts. I know we got some Boston in the house, my hometown. Mm-hmm. And then I quickly got into technology sales. Technology, as it still is today, has driven waves of opportunities for countless salespeople. I was fortunate to join some very great companies that had products that changed the way people work, live, and play. And I rode technology, except for a short stint with Tony for 4 years. I've been in technology for over 30 years.
Mm-hmm. And the last company you were at was it T-Mobile?
T-Mobile, yeah, business sales at T-Mobile.
All right. So you've seen a lot of different sales organizations, and Outreach in particular has gone from I think like no sales reps in 2015 to how many do you have now in 2018? I mean, it's unprecedented growth, I think, right?
Yeah, we've got 35 AEs that we're super proud of. We've got about 34, 35 SDRs. wonderful success team, professional services, pre-sale support, post-sale support. So really proud of all the customer-facing teams.
So that being said, you know, all the growth you've had over the last few years, how do you scale yourself? How do you scale as a manager, and you know, still be a relatable leader while also inspiring respect, while teaching the people that are under you kind of how to do the same thing as it evolves?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot in there, so we'll unpack it just a little bit.
Yeah.
I think, you know, for any organization that's either growing, looking to grow, for anyone in sales, we have all levels of folks on the phone today. You know, you got to solve a problem for somebody. The reason outreach has been growing at the clip that it has is because outreach solves a big problem in the marketplace. I mean, you think about automation over time or the industrial revolution over time. Sales is usually the last department to get the big investment. You know, manufacturing was automated early, accounting, human resources has been automated, marketing got the big automation push, and sales now is being automated. And you know, you think about the organization that you work for, and sales is really that connective tissue where whatever product or service that you're building to solve your customer's problem, sales is that delivery mechanism. Sales is the organization that makes it happen. And it's a little bizarre to me that it's taken so long for help to get to salespeople, to liberate them from, you know, the mundane or routine tasks, to eliminate the time wasters, and to put salespeople back up to the plate as often as they can, to have those stories and drive the activity and take care of the customers. Now, second part of your question really led into, you know, as you're growing, you know, how do you scale growth? And you know, it's not easy. There's no easy answer. At least in the 1 hour that I have with you, I have no easy answer for anything. I've got a lot of opinion. I've got some experience. You know, good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. So we'll share that. But I would say this: you know, the organization as it grows, especially for those of you that are working at smaller organizations that are growing quickly. But there's like a life cycle of a company, and the kinds of challenges and problems that you're dealing with at the earliest stages start to change. So for instance, if you just think about a human being for a moment, the kind of challenges or problems that a baby has in its earliest days are very different than the challenges that they'll have as they start to grow up. So for instance, you know, if a baby wets its diaper at 6 months, that's not a problem. You know, but if a teenager does that, that's different, right? Because you expect different things as it matures. And companies are the exact same way. And, you know, the advice is, you know, you want to have certain problems when you're smaller. You want to work those out and then accept better problems as you start to scale and grow. And, you know, early companies, you know, you want to get customers on your logo page. You want to start driving revenue. You need enough customers on your platform or using your product where you're getting quality feedback and direction. And then once you've landed on the problem you're going to solve and how you're going to do that in a great way, you know, then it's all about how do you scale it, and then start scaling it very efficiently as, you know, revenue efficiency and other quality metrics start coming into how you need to manage and run that business effectively.
Awesome. And so how are you're talking a lot about the kind of mindset there of a company. You know, when you're talking about that early on, adding those logos and getting your first couple customers, you're obviously going to hear no a lot. I mean, and we spoke about this on our pre-webinar call, how you guys had to not only sell what your product does, but sell what the category does, because you were a brand new category. It wasn't another player in the CRM space where people already knew they needed a CRM. And it was just like, oh, here's why you should choose us. It was, here's why you need a product in this category, and when you do understand that you need a product in this category, here's how you choose us. So I'd imagine your reps spend a lot of time hearing no, getting a lot of pushback. What are the things that you do from a mindset side to prepare people for those no's and to get people past that and to persevere and kind of motivate them?
Yeah, I'll take us on a little journey here about mindset because it's important, and we'll end up at this point. But you know, mindset comes up a lot. Like, it comes up a lot. People are always looking for, you know, what makes for an unstoppable mindset, because to me, that's the unfair competitive advantage. And, one of our values here is grit. And at one level, you could say that grit, like this perseverance or this, nonstop determination, but that's only part of it. Like the other part of grit, if you read the book Grit by Angela Duckworth, she describes grit as where persistent meets passion, like passion and persistence. And like you've got to be passionate about something to have perseverance. You've got to be passionate about something to have grit, stamina, mindset. Like it's easy to stand up strong and it's easy to fall over easily as well. It really depends on the cause. So there's a couple of things here. The first I'll do is just say, hey, like when we think about what we're doing, for work right now, some of us have jobs, some of us have professions, and some of us are on a mission. And let me explain the three. Like if you've taken a job somewhere for a paycheck and you don't know if this is your calling or your craft, you don't know if you're working for the right company, you're not culturally aligned, whatever it may be, it's a job. And if something small shows up in the job that doesn't work well, you're going to leave that and find another job. Some of us are professionals. Like we're career sales professionals, and we'll go to an organization that has great compensation, it's got a great product, and then like when little things show up that aren't great, whether it's part of the process, the customer experience, the product's got bugs, whatever it might be, there will be a higher tolerance to work through those because you're a professional, but at some point they'll stack up and you'll move on and get aligned to something different. But when you find what you're associated to at like the mission level, like this is what I was born to represent, this is what I was born to sell, like holy crap, we are doing what needs to be done, then nothing's going to get in your way. It's just noise. Like get out of my way. Like the house is on fire, someone's inside, I need to get in there. Like nothing will stop me from that. And I would just say like for all of us in sales, like we owe it to ourselves to find that. And there's abundance. Like part of like this mindset issue is there's a lot of scarcity mentality, not enough leads, not enough this, there's just too much going on, and reps tend to get into this scarcity mentality. And I would just say from a mindset perspective, like let abundance in. And let me just give you an example. Some of you are in a car, conference room, office, working from home. If you just look around, whatever you're in right now, you take 2 seconds and you look at everything that you can see, it was sold by somebody to somebody else. Everything, the chair, the desk, just everything. And when you think about the fact that everything is sold to anybody or everybody, it really says like, holy crap, then there's something out there that I'm really passionate in, I'm really passionate for, that I can get behind, like all of me, and represent that and drive that to market. And what you'll find is when someone takes it at that inner level, then you start getting that sense, okay, I got my mindset going here, because my belief, and I'll tell you a quick story on this, but my belief is like, you need what I got. Like you need what I got. And like if you're just selling something you don't believe in, it's hard to have that unstoppable mindset because you really don't believe in your inner self that this is all that. Like you're representing something, and if it's easy, great. But when it gets tough, when you start hearing the no's, like how do you persevere? Can I tell a quick story, Max?
Go for it, and then I got a good question for you.
Yeah. So my favorite personal experience is, first of all, this could backfire. I love to be prospected personally, and I love to be prospected for a couple reasons. Number one, it's a great way for me to see like great pitches, like who does a great job, how do they represent. I'm always looking at the emails I'm getting, the subject. Like I love to get pitched. Number two, it's sport for me. Like I love it. Third, it's how I find out about really cool stuff. Like I don't spend all days looking for really cool stuff. Like great people like everyone on the webinar today bring really cool stuff and introduce me to it. So one day I'm at my desk and this gentleman had been prospecting me on a product called Mental Toughness Training for Leaders. And he had done a really thorough job of trying to get a hold of me, and he actually got me live one day. Now, I'm not bragging, but I think I'm mentally tough. I thought, I got my crap together and this is good. And for 20 minutes, he and I are sparring on the phone about his product, about mental toughness for leaders. And it's really built on the premise of Olympic athletes that spend like their entire youth training. And in some cases, if you vault, like for a couple seconds, like you train 18 years, like for 2 seconds of performance, and how some athletes melt down and some perform at amazing levels. And so at the end of the 20-minute pitch, I said, well, what do you think? Like, I thought I did really good, and I like opted out from his product because I proved I was mentally tough. And at the end of the pitch, he goes, you need my product. And I was like, I was like, wow. Like, after what I just did for 20 minutes, you're telling me I need your product? And he goes, yeah. And true story, I actually took out my corporate credit card and bought 3. I bought one for me. I bought one for my peers. I bought one for my boss. And but it really made me think in the moment that he was more convinced that I needed his product than I was convinced that I didn't.
Yeah.
And he really believed in what he was selling at a level and a depth that became contagious and convincing.
Mm-hmm. So that passion and that belief is the number one thing you look for when you hire?
No.
I was gonna say, if that's that important, how do you test for that?
So there's ways to test, and if we have time, I'd love to share a couple techniques.
Mm-hmm.
But we got time. Yeah,
we got time.
There's a couple things. I think reps that are coachable is one of the most coachability, intelligence, and like belief or the passion for what, not just for selling, but for what you're doing. Like I was born, like when I got introduced to outreach with Manny, I knew right then and there I need to be part of this team. Mm-hmm. Like this solves a problem that I've seen and experienced for much of my career, and super excited about it. But I think intelligence, coachability, and why coachability is so important. When you bring over a really talented person, they have a lot of habit, they've got bias. In some cases, they got a belief that their way of selling is better than what's been proven and modeled as a sales process. So I think people coming in with an open mind to being coachable and figuring out what's worked for an organization, that's growing really fast, matters a ton.
Okay. And do you have any of those the tests that you do? Any go-to tests? Right now in the
I'll give everybody just a couple fun things. No judgment, but I interview a lot of folks, and some of the patterns I see on resumes, top rep, 200% of quota, fastest to $1 million. Like, you just see all of these amazing accolades.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I love to do when we first sit down is, I'll make the rep feel, welcome, and certainly very impressive resume. And so Max, it says right here that you've been the #1 rep at your organization for the last 3 years. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Dude, congratulations. That is quite a feat. Hey, real quick, before we jump in the interview, do me a favor. Just give me the pitch real quick. Just give me the pitch.
So you want to see how they talk about their previous company?
Yeah. So, well, let me go deep. So here's what typically happens. So what Max would normally say in the interview is, well, Matt, how I normally do it is this. I go, no, don't tell me how you normally do it. Do it. Like, do it. And here's what I'll find. So there's a great saying, how you do anything is how you do everything. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you've been somewhere for 3 years and you're the #1 guy or girl, and you can stand up and give me the pitch in a great way, then I know you'll be able to do it here. We'll just need to train you.
Yeah.
Right. But if you can't do the pitch or you have any reluctance, well, we're done. So like the first thing you want to test is, can they actually do the job? I think too many interviews, you actually don't test, can they do the job? Like, give me the pitch. Like, show me you can compel me into moving me.
Yeah.
Like, extract.
I like that. Give you one more. Yeah, go for it.
Give you one more. And this is a fun one. There's a way. So if I said, Max, if I could have one attribute, if you and I could agree on one attribute that would define success for an AE or an SDR in this role be, what would that one attribute be? One attribute to define success. Yeah, like the best candidate. Would they be passionate? Would they be intelligent? Would they be hardworking? Like, what's the one thing, if I could only hire on one attribute, what would it be? Ooh, that's a tough question. You have a go-to for that? I mean, I'd say, well, for me, persistence, organization,
Yeah.
Perfect. Of course it's persistent. Of
Yeah.
course it. Let me ask you a question, Max. If you and I both agree that having persistence is the most important determinant of your success, why aren't I seeing persistence in you right now?
Mhm. So what would you want to see? What would be that prime
So
example?
let me play this back. So
Yeah.
whatever the candidate says is right.
Yeah.
And they're saying that because it's actually how they see themselves. They're going to give you 99% of the time, they'll give you an attribute they actually associate to. And then you're going to challenge them back with it. You're going to challenge their identity. The most powerful force in the human spirit is the need to stay consistent with the identity you create for yourself. So if I challenge you on your identity, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to fold like a lawn chair, or you're going to attack. You're going to go, Matt, what don't you see? Like what part of persistence aren't you seeing in this interview? They'll either defend themselves to the point where they'll risk the job. Like they have, like somebody that knows how to fight, that's ego strength, right? Because an interview is like the zoo. Nothing happens in the zoo. The lion gets a piece of raw meat, doesn't eat the tourist, but how do you behave in the jungle?
Yeah.
Like when you get the job and you hit the streets, what kind of performance am I going to get from you? And I'm testing for that, not with ego, but ego strength. So if you fight, like if you risk the interview, you risk the job, then I got a sense of who you are and how you're going to be on the street.
Yeah. And so going into that, into who you are on the street, are all of your reps, how many of your reps are outside the office?
Well, we've got most of our reps work remotely.
Work remotely. Okay.
But we conduct, I'd say, 90% of all of our business, virtually.
Okay. So you do a lot of business virtually.
Knock on a door, get on a plane, whatever we need to do, but we're super efficient.
So what is that? So you talk a lot about mindset. You hire for this this type of mindset. You actually test for it in the interview process. I'd imagine that you handed this down to a lot of your middle managers and whoever else who's in on the early rounds of the hiring process. How does that translate over to the buying process? So first of all, are you watching some of these people? What's the onboarding process? How do you get the first enterprise account executive that comes in when they start working on a deal? How do you make sure that they're doing the things that you tested for? And what are some of those kind of like buyer psychology things and winning mindset things that you're continuing to preach and make sure that they do over time?
Again, great question. Lots in there. Let's unpack it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, like anytime we hire somebody new, like I take that so personally because somebody has made a decision to start over with us. I mean, that's a big deal. Someone's got a career, they've got pipeline, they've got momentum to their business, and for whatever reason, they've made a decision to start over with you. And like I take that really personally. I take anyone, who come to join, the team, like we owe it to them to get them successful. We know we hired someone good and we got to go. And I'm super proud, Mark Coachable on my team, just built out something that's really cool. We call it the Agog Tribe. So we've got a 5-month ramp process, and I'll talk AEs for a minute, but we do something very similar with SDRs as well. We have a 5-month ramp, but for the first 2.5 months, we have what's called the Agog Tribe, and it was modeled after the Spartan Warriors, where the young kids were peeled off and put through a special training to get them ready ultimately for combat. And Mark's created this awesome concept where we have a dedicated team that handles all the new hires for the first couple months and make sure we know how to run all the meetings, the scripts, do a killer demo, how to handle any of the objections, like really understand how the business is done. And then we release them off to go kick ass. So it's really cool. And then there's a lot of attention during those early few months in terms of monitoring a high degree of going in and listening to calls, making sure they got it right, a lot of testing and training through, really putting in the extra time up front to make sure that people, have that successful career. Because, the mindset that we have right now in the early days, it's less about generating the quick deals. It's more about building a sustainable pipeline. Mm-hmm. Like the whole purpose of ramp is like to ensure that you've built enough pipe So when you're out there, you've got that going. You've got that big wheel moving, and that's super important. And it's a commitment we make to each other here and the folks that we bring in to get that right.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying anything we do is perfect, but we put a lot of energy into making sure that working with the new hires and getting them off to a strong start.
And you have a number of leads that you have to be at before you hire a new cohort or new class or a new individual rep?
Yeah, it's not that. We've got some very aggressive growth plans, and we have a hiring track for SDRs, AEs, our success side of the house, to make sure it all builds commensurate.
Yeah.
And it's a very steady build over time, so there's no jolts to the system.
Okay. So let's get into that buying process for a little bit, because we went a lot into the mindset that we kind of went through the full cycle here. We went into how you hire people, how you manage and kind of test these people as they get into your organization, how they get onboarded, what's different once they get into the deal cycle around how you manage from a, what would you say, empathetic or compassionate point of view. I want to know, you have to make sure people hit their numbers, right? But you also have to be a relatable leader, somebody that's motivating, that they want to work for. How do you balance those things? And what you do mirrors to how your reps treat their prospects and the people that they're selling to. So how do you kind of make sure that whole thing translates? Again, some of these questions are multi-parter, but they're all, tied together. So
they are, Max. And let me start that. I'm going to give you a 3-pillar of my leadership fundamentals that will strike that balance. But I'll tell you, it doesn't start with how I lead. It starts with how the company is and what our value system is and how we are as an organization. But I've come up with three leadership pillars over time that have served me and have served the teams that I've been fortunate enough to lead. And the first one I'm going to start off with is empathy. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by empathy and why I think it's so important. I think too many sales leaders have amnesia. And what I mean by that is if they've carried a bag, it was a long time ago, and they start remembering what it was like to carry a bag. And, sometimes you roll things into the organizations that make no sense. And the folks on the front line, like, who the hell came up with this idea? Like, it'll never work. And there are things you can do. And of course, we roll things that don't work too. So I'm not, but I have the utmost respect for everybody on my team. I have an understanding of what they do and what it takes to win today. And that level of empathy as defined by appreciation and understanding for each of the roles I'm responsible for leading. And that's a pillar for me, like something I won't take for granted. And I have what I call the Sales Excellence Advisory Panel that I meet with twice a month. And we get feedback on things we're thinking about we're rolling out. We get feedback on things we just rolled out. And, is it working? Is it hitting the mark? Like, what tweaks do we need to make? Is there a corner we need to round off? So, keeping our ear to the ground, super important. I talk to reps, I mentor reps. I try to stay connected and have empathy. The second pillar is fun. Like, I think some people, not all, but like, we're working hard. Everyone on the phone, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm at my desk at 6 a.m. I leave at 6. I work 12 hours at my desk, just starting. I call it a half day. 12 hours is a half day. But I work hard. I love what I do. I want to be here. If I get to my office at 6 a.m., it's already 9 a.m. on the East Coast, so you could say I'm late, right? But if I'm going to spend this kind of time at the office and not with my family, I want to be having fun. And I give permission to everybody in my organization to have fun. I know we're working hard. I trust everybody is, and they're putting in the hours, they're putting in the time. Enjoy it. Enjoy the people you're working with. Enjoy the customers you're interacting with. Enjoy your time. Whatever that is for you, you have permission to have fun. Like me, I'm a little wacky. But if you see where I work, I'm listening to EDM or electronic dance music all day.
Yeah, that was on my notes.
Yeah.
Lauren put that on my notes. So I don't bring up EDM.
It's true. I got good energy music in the background, helping to keep my mindset straight. I'll be throwing the football, but we're having fun. We're laughing. Even when we're having meetings, it's okay to tear it up a little bit. But I want it, like, it's a pillar for me. Like, I've got to have fun. Like, I work too hard not to have fun. And my third pillar is to do the right thing. And I just want everyone to know, like, what that means, like, to do the right thing. Like, I do the right thing by my employees, and I do the right thing by my customers. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if an employee is having a challenge and they come to you, you don't open up the employee handbook and tell them what the policy is. No, you treat them like a human being that's having a situation. Customer calls up, you don't tell them what the contract says. You make it right, like you fix it. And I just think that leaders who have a true empathy for the people that work for them, that have an environment where you can still inject some fun and where they can count on you to do the right thing, to have the customers back and to have your employees back. And I'll tell you, when your employees are out prospecting or working deals, and they know without a doubt that the leadership team of the organization has their back, you think they're more likely to get it done. Yeah, definitely. So those are my principles. They align very closely with the broader organization. And when you've got those principles in place, the people on the team, they know who you are, right? They know who you are. So they want to win. They want to win for themselves. They want to win for their team. They want to win for their leader. They want to win for the organization. And look, when you got to get heavy, you don't live heavy. Like, you don't walk with a big foot all the time. But when you do have to get heavy on the job, like, they know that's not you all the time. And if Matt's heavy today, something's going on. I better listen. And like, you've earned the right to be heavy once in a while. No one ever earns the right to be heavy all the time. Yeah, of course. So, okay, that's good. So you took us through the pillars, what you use internally. Now, I want to hear about how it translates from your sales team to the prospects that they're working with. Yeah. So, the topic of the webinar was how to influence buyers that think they don't need you. Yet. And a lot of that has to do with mindset, which is why we spent a lot of time teeing that up. And now I really want to get into the weeds on that. So, how to influence buyers that think they don't need you. What are some of the things you have your team doing that are talking to these prospects that are, we don't need a tool like this. We don't need this technology. We have a CRM, whatever it is that their excuse is. What are some of the ways that you can kind of penetrate those objections and those negative responses using, the mindset techniques and practices that you've learned over your career? Yeah, so probably, look, if I've got somebody actually on the phone giving me some pushback, like that's the best place to start. Let's be clear, like that's what we're all working towards. If there's an SDR organization or inside sales organization, or whether you're a full cycle AE and you're doing your own prospecting, look, we live to get into a conversation live. Like so many reps have this attitude, which is awesome. If I can just talk to somebody, I got them. Like, how many people, feel that way? Like, just get me into that interaction. So that's like an aspirational plea. We can back up a little bit. Like I would recommend, like, have a script. Like, let's just start off at the very beginning of whoever you are. And it doesn't mean you sit there and read a piece of paper, but it does. Mm-hmm. Like, it does. Like, what a script does is it's what's best. And it's like a roadmap, because sometimes you'll be in your conversation and Max, you'll give me a question over here. I'm going to go do that. And if I have a script and I know where I'm at, then I'll come right back to where I left off, because the reason I called you isn't about handling your objections. I never call you for objections. I'm calling you to set a meeting. I'm calling you, for some interim step in the sales process. And anything that you happen to say along the way, I need to get back to my outcome, which is to get the meeting, period. Like, I've got to get a meeting. And anything, now, we can have fun with mindset. Like, we have fun with it. For instance, I know, in my line of work, the problems I solve. And you might say, hey, I don't need what you're selling. And I'll say, hey, Max, let me ask you, look, before you hang up on me, so I'm transferring some authority over to you. Look, before you hang up on me, can I ask you a quick question? Aren't you a little bit curious how I got you on the phone today? Like, how many times are you prospected every week and never get on the phone? How many? Mm-hmm. Like, is it rare? Is it rare that I'm actually on the phone with you? Exactly. It would definitely be the minority of times that I would actually be on the phone. So don't be too quick to say you don't need what I have, because I'm actually on the phone with you. Yeah, and your product happens to be in that process, so it makes it a little bit nicer or tighter for you, right? Because, like, if you were selling the
design software, for example, like you wouldn't be able to do that, right? It would be a little bit different.
Yeah, but I would have that for that. Like, so like one of the
Yeah.
keys is figure out what that hook is, like whatever you're selling. And this is why, like, if you're super passionate about whatever you're selling, like you'll come up with that hook, and it's a little bit playful. Right. So one of the things, I just injected some fun into that, and I'm going to start, building some rapport and just having a little bit of fun with you on the phone. And you're going to say, look, or I don't need what you have. Of course you don't need it. If you did, you would have called me for it. Like, that's not why I called. Like, there's a lot of ways that you can just play. But I'll give you a couple things just on objection handling from a mindset perspective. Let's stick there, because one of the first things you're going to get in an objection or in a conversation will be some form of pushback. And the reason is, I interrupted you. Like, I call you up in the middle of the day, beginning of the day. You're not expecting my call. I'm selling something you don't think you need. It is nothing more than interruption, and you're going to try to get off the phone really quick. Let's just expect it. Let's not let that ruin our day. Of course you're not expecting my call. Of course you weren't planning to write me a check. I got it. So the first thing you want to do is understand, and you want to be playful, get to the point quick, let them know you're valued, take 2 minutes. But the challenge people have with objections is, sometimes reps are so proud of their product. They're so proud of their company. They're so proud of the training they received on how to handle objections, that you're going to give me an objection and I'm going to just come right back at you, Max, and tell you how wrong you are. No, that's not true. So what happens is, here I am. I just called you up. You didn't expect it. I interrupt you. You give me an objection and I tell you that you're wrong.
Yeah.
How are you feeling in that moment?
Challenged. Yeah, exactly. I'm over this.
Yeah,
especially on an outbound. It's like, I wasn't interested in the first place, and now you got me. So we're talking about people who aren't interested. A lot of your work, where your product lies, is in outbound. So these people aren't necessarily looking for something. You're reaching out to them. So obviously that's a much harder sell than people who are already looking for it. And you guys, having a product in the space for outbound are obviously the pros at this, or at least you should be at this point, right? So like, what are some of those things some of those best practices that you see working for your internal team, or how do you eat your own dog food, so to speak?
Yeah. So first of all, eating your dog, we live on our platform and we use it, extensively for SDRs, AEs, CSMs. I mean, every one of our personas, uses outreach to, accelerate and amplify their work. But I think what's most important is you construct a sales process inversely.
Yeah.
Meaning, construct a buyer's journey. So instead of having like sales stages along the way, and of what we expect our salespeople to be doing, what is the buyer doing along the way, and what does the buyer need to be doing? So the buyer needs to be made aware. The buyer need to get smarter on what's going on. The buyer needs to evaluate and test and et cetera. So if you think about creating the process, not how you want your team to go through it, but really think about how your customer or your prospect is going through it. That's the first thing that you can do, is really experience what you've built from the buyer side. And, are we saying the right things? Are we providing the right value along the way? And are we hooking them? Like one of the notes I made was, hey, like if someone's getting a lot of no's, if someone's getting a lot of no's, they could need some sales training. They could need like an attitude adjustment in terms of how we're approaching. But quite frankly, like, what about the script? Like, is the messaging right? Like it's not always the rep that's not being effective or efficient. Like, look at your go-to-market. Like, look at the script and the conversations that you're setting up. And I'll tell you, there's 3 things that I look at here. I do story, activity, and mindset. Like, these to me are the 3 components of the day. The first piece is the story. Like, if you don't have a story, you do not have permission to go out into the market and start talking about the brand. You'll ruin it. And that's why we put our new hires into a thorough training process to get the story down, because we don't want somebody out there, speaking incorrectly about what we do or how we do it. Like, the story matters, and it's got to be told with passion and conviction, because as you're telling a story to a prospect, you're going to have to move them emotionally into taking action, whatever the next step is. where the second piece, once you got the story down, is you move into the activity. And every one of the organizations needs to understand, like, what's the correct amount of activity that generates the output. How many calls do you need to make to get the meeting? How many meetings do you need to run to get pipeline? How much pipe do you need to extend all the way through? But you need to understand your activity, and not just understand the conversions, but be excited about doing it. Like truly be excited about doing it. And then third is the mindset piece, like having yourself in check, like really setting yourself up to have a strong day. Coming in, you take time in the morning to warm up, get yourself going, do some role playing, practice the pitch, do some objection handling, like really think about it. And when you come in with that mindset, you're going to attack that story with energy and conviction. You're going to hit that activity. I mean, that's how you've got to like set yourself up for whatever you're doing to go out and get it done.
And that builds that influence and that kind of trust and rapport, and the buyer can feel that passion. They can feel all those things that you're doing in your organization, that you're handling.
Momentum. It's like momentum. Yeah, like an SDR will come over and go, man, I just booked a meeting, or it's like, great meeting, right? It's like, get back on the phone and do it again. Like, there's no better time to make the next call than when you just won. I mean, you're in state, like you just tasted victory. Yeah. Right? Like, it's the best time. Like, you've got that. Now you can't be beat. Like,
what are some things you guys do to enforce that? You have like a gong or something that you hit?
Yeah, well, we used to do a gong, but we're a little more dispersed. So we have what we call a boom email. So every win goes out to the whole company, and it does a couple things. Who the company was, the competitive environment, who the key people were. So not just the AE, but which was the SDR that set the meeting, which sales or solutions consultant assisted on the deal. So we try to really widen that success. And by the way, we do that on product features. Every time our product and engineering team launches a new feature, we do a boom email so the whole company can celebrate, adding more value to our base and extending our TAM. So we really try to celebrate and then learn from it. Like we probably pay more attention to our losses than our wins, because every loss is a learning, and we want to make sure that we're really fast to learn and making sure that there's no systemic challenges that we need to sew up. So you celebrate the win, but the win's very ephemeral. It goes away quick, but the loss stays with you. It stings. So we spend a lot of time at looking where we don't win.
Yeah, and how do you do that? So we're talking about influencing buyers and doing outbound. Do you do any kind of customer development or post-mortem on a lost deal? Or what does that look like in your organization right now, and how has that evolved over time?
Yeah, that's great. And technology has certainly helped it evolve. One of the things that we'll do, on meetings that didn't go well, deals that didn't end well, demos that didn't feel right, we'll go back and we listen. Everything's recorded. We got a nice tool that helps us go back and listen to every call, and we'll dissect it. We'll learn from it. We'll go back and I'll jump on the phone with customers and help me understand, help make me better next time. Like where do we fall short?
Mm-hmm. And you do that with the rep too, with everything.
Look, we don't do everything all the time.
Not with everything,
but I'm just saying, but I'll jump on, an important business. I'll jump on and, I get involved with customers, especially through the sales process, but, postmortems and just, understanding and again, learning from it. I think, the biggest thing is just learning from what's not working.
Yeah. Okay. And, we spoke about this in our pre-call, but what are some of the advancements in technology that are aiding people influencing buyers and that kind of mindset?
Yeah. It's funny, when I started selling, there was no such thing as email. Companies did email. The internet was 6 years away.
Yeah.
We had a fax machine where my POs got faxed over. It's awesome. So I've actually, watched the infusion of technology over time. And quite frankly, early technology through the web benefited the buyer more than the seller. Mm-hmm. The buyer could get all the information. They didn't need to talk to a rep as early. A rep could buy online and bypass the rep. Then there were these reverse auctions, and it's just like whoever take the biggest loss would win. And then,
Yeah.
then technology like came to the rescue for the seller. In terms of getting information on who your customer is, all the way up now where we have, look, if we did this webinar 6 months ago, I could tell you, look, outreach is going to give you reps 1 or 2 hours back every day. It's going to increase our activity 2 to 3x. You get 30% more meetings or more pipeline, whatever you're measuring. Today, we have machine learning in the program. So today, it doesn't stop there. Now we can take a look at what's driving revenues. You can go back and take a look at which of the activities early stage are actually impacting revenue, so you can do more of this and not that. Maybe you got a lot of meetings here, but they didn't go closed won.
Yeah.
They fizzled out. Even though it looked like these didn't do as well initially, they had a long tail and they actually converted at a higher rate. So what you can start doing, with machine learning, with the technology on the platform, is getting much smarter earlier on, making much better decisions in how you're investing your resources. It allows you to play a completely different game on revenue efficiency.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, the advancements are over even the last 5 years. I mean, you're talking since '86, you mentioned before. I don't know, I do the math on that, it's like 30 years. But I mean, even in the last 5 years, the advancements have been pretty incredible. So on the front end of the sales process, would you say you use like a similar process on the front end that you do in customer success, and even with account executives, or it's fairly different? And do you leverage the same technology or different technology across the board?
Yeah, so we leverage the same technology in customer success. I couldn't be prouder. We have a mindset here of customer success over time. So we have an engagement methodology, and what we do is we have an onboarding motion. So we won't turn any customer over to success until we have 85% adoption. So we make sure before we ever get over to success that customer is already adopted, and not just on the platform, but we train them on their specific workflows. So through the sales process and scoping sessions, we understand the specific workflows, and then we onboard those workflows. So when we've trained a team on outreach, they're doing their job on the platform. I mean, that's what we do. And then customer success then continues to expand that team through outreach's capabilities and extracting maximum value off the platform. Introducing new features to those teams as they're ready for them, and to be able to drive our customers' efficiency. And we measure, just like our number one internal measurement here, it's not deals, it's not sales, it's daily active users. Like, we measure ourselves by how many of our users come back every single day on outreach to perform their job, and that's our number one metric.
So what's your number one piece of advice for companies that need to be influenced to leverage technology in the sales process? So anybody who here is like championing it for it to be used.
Yeah, I think so. First of all, that's a really great question, and we've got 1,000 people here, and what's going to is people in all these categories. Some people have tool fatigue; they've got a bunch of tools and poor adoption, all the way down to very limited tools and a like Salesforce that's probably a dirty instance, and people are either ghosts or slaves. Ghosts means they don't show up and enter anything. Slaves means too much of the day is inputting data that never gets used somewhere or not. And I think you got to take a constant look at what's available to support and liberate your sales teams. To your point, Max, just in the last 5 years has been drastic, and you're seeing point solutions compress onto larger platforms, as an example. And what's important is that your reps adopt and embrace a platform that they're going to go back and use every day. So it's a great investment, and that platform amplifies and accelerates their activities and ultimately your revenue. All of this is available today, and it's just because you made an investment 3 years ago, it's like anything. It's the technology is at such a fast clip transitioning that it's important to stay close to the market and understand what your reps need.
Yeah, great. So we're running out of time here. I want to know, we talk a lot about mindset, talk a lot about being a leader, talk a lot about pushing through the no and motivation. You guys have just came out with a new initiative called Beyond the Number, and kind of celebrating the human side of sales, right? I wanted to get your thoughts on that, what the goal was there, because we at Sales Hacker, we attack a lot of the practical, tactical, kind of in the weeds sales type stuff. We do not get much into the mentality of it. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's exactly why we created Beyond the Number, because you can go out, whether it's LinkedIn or Google, the 10 things for this, the 5 things for that, 3 ways to do this. There is as much of that as you could ever want, and thank God it's out there. There's great advice, there's great pro tips. What I've found that there's not a lot of is the celebration of the human behind the sales motion. That there's real people behind every selling effort. And look, you and I, we got families, loved ones, we've got challenges, we've got conflicts, we've got life. We deal with life sometimes outside of work, and sometimes life creeps into work and work creeps into life a little bit. But we got to deal with that. And there's also a place beyond the number where we celebrate the person behind the effort, and we tell the stories of single mothers that you want to provide better for their kids. We provide stories of people going through really tough times and still got to pull it together to make their number and serve their clients, and that's what Beyond the Number is all about.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it's much needed. There's definitely not a lot of content out there around it, and I know a lot of sales professionals who definitely need it. What's the best way to stay in touch with you and reach you if they need you?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn, Matt Millen. I'm Matt Millen on Twitter. Love to get feedback and extend the conversation beyond this. But I'll leave everybody with one thing, if I may, which is remember the promise. Remember when we all started early in our career, and this might be some fuel for our mindset. When we first started our career, we would have done anything for the opportunity to earn in sales 2 times the average family in America. When you were just starting out, what would you do? And we would have done the hard work. We would have done whatever it took. And sometime along the road, we start to forget what we would have done to have one of the highest paying professions in America, and the freedoms that come with it. And we start to get this sense of entitlement, we need better leads, or I would just remind everybody about the promise that we'd make if we were to start all over again. Recommit yourself to the mastery of your profession. Recommit yourself to your organization, your team, and recommit yourself to yourself. One of the things that we do back to our onboarding is everybody writes a promise note to themselves before they leave our boot camp. What they promise to do for the organization, who they promise to be for themselves. And then we have them write that note, put an envelope, seal it, and they address the envelope. And then we never look at it, but we mail it to them 6 months later to remind them of the euphoria they were in when they took the job and the commitments they were making to be successful here for themselves. And for our company to sustain growth, we need people to come join and be successful. And last Friday, one of my reps out of Raleigh received a 6-month note, took a picture and slacked it to me. And it was just a beautiful reminder, for me, for all of us, to keep recommitting to what we promised to do. And that will fuel our mindset and give us the energies and the beliefs we need to go out and get it done.
Love that. We had a couple people even write in that said, thank you. That was really impactful. So thanks for imparting that wisdom on us. I'm sure you can find a lot more of it at Beyond the Number. What's the link for Beyond the Number? Is it outreach.com/BTN?
Yeah, I got the poster, but the link's not on it. It is. It's beyondthenumber.io.
Beyondthenumber.io. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Matt. That was awesome. We will have this recording for you. The link will be sent to you shortly, so you can access it on demand whenever you want. Share it around with your friends, colleagues, whoever you'd like. Matt, thanks so much for joining us today's edition Sales Hacker webinar. That was fantastic. Thanks a lot.
And thank you, Max, and thank you for everyone that took an hour out of your day to spend the time with us.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for joining, everyone, and we'll see you on the next one.